Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to church. Levi, welcome to church.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Wherever you're watching from, whether it's Powell, Butte, Wickenburg, or online, or watching later in the week, welcome. It's Sunday. It's the best day of the week. Thanks for being here. Levi.
Hello.
This is Levi, everyone. Levi, if you could introduce yourself and talk about a little bit what you do around here for people that may have not met you yet.
Well, my name's Levi. I play guitar every once in a while.
And like a million other instruments.
And then I hold a camera sometimes. But I'm actually really excited about this worship set.
Yeah.
The band has just been growing every time we play. So
yeah.
it's just a blast to be able to do it.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
Levi does pretty much a little bit of everything around here. So Levi, thanks for just being you, and thanks for coming on the live stream this morning.
Heck
it's
yeah.
awesome to have, co-hosts.
Yeah, I'm not great at talking on camera. So.
That's okay, I'll do all the talking. Again, just a huge thank you and welcome to everyone that is watching this morning. If you haven't yet, share the online stream. We are live streaming to 42,000 people. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But press the share button, share it to your Facebook news feed, and just something to keep in mind too is we are trying to kind of explore different areas and ways to develop the online platform. Jacob will be back with me a little bit later in the day to talk a little bit more about that. But for now, share on Facebook, copy the link and text it to someone. Just invite your friends and family to church. Yeah. All right. Well, we are excited. We're about to actually go into what we call the Butte. You guys may remember an episode actually quite a while ago. It's been a while since we've done one. But this is Jacob and Levi's, I guess you could say maybe like a morning show, news show.
I'd say it's more Jacob's project.
It's more pure chaos. I'm just kidding. You're going to hear a little bit from Jacob and Levi about Wickenburg, the new media center, COVID safety tips, and of course laughs. If you don't laugh, we actually will be asking you to leave. No, I'm just kidding. But it's okay to laugh. I'll just laugh super loud, so you can laugh kind of under me, so you don't feel awkward about laughing.
Nice.
Yeah, you can laugh loud too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so after the Butte, we are going straight into worship. Again, this is a new one that we haven't seen before. One note I wanted to point out, which Levi, you probably hear this too, but the drums sound phenomenal. There are so many cool parts of the drums, and I think it's so cool that we're able to do worship through video because there would be absolutely no way to do that live in the sanctuary in Powell, Butte. Who decided to get cement floors in there? I don't know, but I want to talk. I'm just kidding. So we're blessed to be able to do this through video. Be listening for those cool drums. When the music begins, stand and worship with us. I don't think I'm missing anything, but I think Jacob and I will be back after worship to talk about the sermon. We're super excited about that. Overall, it's just a beautiful day, and we're excited that you're here. So here we go into the service, and we'll be back again soon.
Welcome back to the Butte Weekly. I'm Jacob. That's Levi. We're going to tell you about things and stuff. We don't know what we're doing, so we hope you enjoy. And our first story of the day, Wickenburg, Arizona. You heard of it? We've got a video from Scott Johnson. He's down there in Wickenburg. How's it looking, Scott? Well, thanks, Scott Johnson. That was a wonderful video. What'd you think, Levi? Why don't we check out the studio? Levi, I want an infield report from Levi Wolf.
What's up, guys? We're putting up metal in a very fine fashion. Yeah, you should see this stuff blow around in the wind. You let go of it, it's gone.
It's like Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Cool. Can we look inside?
Would you please?
Okay.
It's awesome in there.
How's the lighting in here? Hey, guys, we're in the studio live. For those who don't know, this is going to be where we record the worship, podcasts, a bunch of other creative stuff. It's going to be quite a shindig, quite a function. Levi, come around here, please. Come on. How's the lighting? Is it good if I stand like this? This is the editing bay in which we will edit the bays. Not really. It's where we're just going to edit kind of the desk space, if you will. This, as you can see, is an electrical box. I kind of want to touch it for comedic purposes, but I'm actually afraid I would die. So I'm not going to. Okay, well now that was the studio. Let's throw it back to Jacob in the studio. Jacob, how are we looking over there?
COVID. You can never be too safe. You can never be too safe with COVID.
That studio really looked great, Levi. It's going to be a great addition to Shiloh Ranch Media. Can't wait for it. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in next week for probably not Powell Butte Weekly, but we don't know what's going on, so maybe.
You can tune a fish, but you can't tune a piano.
Alrighty, Shiloh, we're going to go into worship. If you want to stand and join us, that would be awesome.
Let faith arise. In spite of what I see, Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief, I choose to trust you. No matter what I feel, let faith arise. Let faith arise. For my champion's not dead, he is alive. He already knows my every need. Surely he will come and rescue me. God, miracles come. We need your supernatural love to break through. Nothing's impossible, 'cause you're the God of miracles. Let faith rise. See the kingdom come, I lift my eyes. For the battle has been won and my God is faithful. Every single word he says is true. God, miracles come. We need your supernatural love to break through. Nothing's impossible, 'cause you're the God of miracles. This world is shaking, but you cannot be shaken. My heart is breaking, but I'm not broken yet. Your love is fearless. Help me to be courageous too. Oh, there's nothing impossible for the God of miracles come. We need your supernatural love to break through. Nothing's impossible, 'cause you're the God of miracles. Oh, things have passed away. Your love has stayed the same. Your constant grace remains the cornerstone. Things that we thought were dead are breathing in life again. You cause your sun to shine on darkest night. Oh, how we love you. You are the one our hearts adore.
Thank you, Father God, for this time that we can gather here and worship you, God. Thank you for how you always love us, Father God. No matter where we are, no matter how far away we are, pray that you would cover us and lead us into this next week of life. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
We've said forever that we didn't feel called to a traditional church model, and what's so cool about 2020 is it just propelled us forward into ideas that would have taken years. 2020 was such an interesting year because as much of a struggle as it was, it also opened the doors for opportunities to new faces, new people. That includes giving. Here's what's so cool about that. We've had new givers. We've had people come on and go, this feels like home to me. It was sort of the validation of a vision that we've had for years. And so if you're watching in a home, if you're watching in a hometown, if you're watching in person, there are so many different ways that you can participate in that vision exactly, which is you can mail checks to P.O. Box 177, Powell, Butte, Oregon, 97753. It'll probably pop up on your screen somewhere. You can text 77977, you know the numbers, and then you text the word Shiloh Ranch, Shiloh with an H on the end of it, all one word, no spaces. You can go to the website. We got boxes if you're in person, there's boxes in the back. There's so many different ways, but here's my point. We are there. We have now reached a place where we go, we think this will work, and now it is, and you guys are a part of that.
All right, well, we are back, and we are about to go into the sermon, which is actually the third episode of our Sermon 2.0 series. So Jacob, talk about what we're about to see.
Like Mary said, this is the third episode with Casey Davis, and she talks about her battle with cancer and how it actually expanded her faith through that process. And I think Jordan talked about it in the intro as well, but something that really hit me was her perspective on troubles, pain, discomfort. She took time to actually say, I know this is a bad situation, but I don't want to miss what God is doing in that situation. And that really stuck out to me because that's a perspective I want to have. If something bad is going on, to step back and say, I wonder what God is doing, and to put fear and all that stuff aside and to see that, it was beautiful.
Well, and I think probably most everyone that will be watching this today or in the future knows someone or has been affected by cancer. So I think that aspect is just going to make this sermon episode hit so much harder. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. And just as a reminder, make sure to press the share button on the stream. I know that we say it a lot, it's getting very repetitive, but just think about if there's one person that maybe it's even a friend of your Facebook friend that has the opportunity to see this and needs to hear it and needs this perspective and this encouragement. Just changing one life or helping one person is kind of all we want to do, just one person. So get on, press the share button. Right now we're going to head right into the sermon. After that, worship will begin again, another awesome part. So make sure if you're watching online, stick around for that. And as well, make sure to stick around even after that worship. We'll be back on to give some announcements, updates, talk a little bit more about the sermon. So don't click out after the sermon ends. Stick around with us. But right now, into the sermon.
Early on, I felt like I always had this conversation with God. Like, God, I never felt called to be a typical pastor, and it just felt like such a frustration. I wanted to do a good job. And I think that's important to state. It wasn't that I didn't want to do it because I didn't care about people. It was that I wanted to do a good job, and I felt like that I wasn't going to fit that model. But what you're going to see for the next 4 weeks, to me, is a moment of vision. It's almost like stepping into the promised land. Jacob flew down to be able to capture it. We had the people in the room that I've been trying to get to come to Oregon, but they're busy and they've got lives and stuff that they're doing. We met some people that are just, the stories are unbelievable. And like I said, I don't even know how to tell you to prepare for where we're going. I'm excited for you guys to get to hear it. I'll tell you a little bit about each individual story, but this is going to be the thing that you're going to hear for 4 weeks in a row. as we go through what I don't even know what we're calling it yet. Maybe like the evolution of a sermon. Maybe it's I don't know, maybe kind of a hybrid between a podcast and a sermon. I'm actually happy that it doesn't have a name, because it means it's something that we haven't seen over and over and over again. I will say this, we sat in the room yesterday and there was just this awe and sort of this silence where everybody's sort of looking at each other like, man, you feel it. You feel what God is doing in the room with these people and with these people that love Jesus. And so I'm so excited that we now have a method or a means by which we can share those private, intimate moments, these Jesus moments that go into the depth of what his word says and what it looks like played out in people's lives. And I'm so grateful that we were able to capture that in a way that now can be put in front of people, that I know there's going to be people every single week that find themselves in the stories that you're going to hear over the next 4 weeks. You guys are about to get to meet Casey Davis. Justin Davis is her husband, and I've known Justin pretty much my whole life, and I really got to know him the last few years, and Casey through Justin. She's been through a season of struggling that I can't personally relate to. But the thing that she said this week that stands out, and I want you to be listening for, is that she didn't want to miss what God had for her in her season of struggling. And that has just stuck with me ever since she said it until right now when we're recording this right here. It just stands out to me that there's going to be seasons of struggling. There's going to be seasons of difficulty. And to hear her heart and perspective through that, I know there's been people in our church that have gone through similar issues. And so I'm excited for you guys to get to hear what God was able to do through that season that she wouldn't have chose, but that she wouldn't take back.
It's like close. I'm going to end up going whack. Because I talk with my
Don't try to make it formal and don't church it up.
Do you know me at all? Hello, brother Steve. Welcome to my podcast.
Welcome to,
Hi, welcome to my YouTube page.
There's got to be more.
We are doing a thing that kind of looks like church with people that I love. And I'm going to tell you guys don't know this. I'm with Casey Davis, and Casey's actually been to the Powell Butte campus. You came with Justin when you were up there with Trey a few years ago. That's the first time I met you. That was in like 2014, I think, 2014, 15. And what we didn't know, what nobody knew, is the direction life was going to go for the Davis family. You guys don't know what a treat it is to have Casey. And as we're working through this thing, we've had Jody and Steve, and what's cool about this is it's going to be parlayed out as a sermon series about fertility and soil and things like that. We're all getting to be here in the room. We're going to meet Justin, your husband, next week. But when Justin and I started talking about this, he said, I think I could talk Casey into coming up for that. Well, in my mind, it wasn't even an option. Like, to me, it wasn't even an option. So let me read the basis of where we're at this month. And it's the people are going to think I'm taking my job too easy because we're reading the exact same 8 verses for an entire month. But here we go. Matthew 13, verse 1 says, that same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed, and as he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell along rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly, but because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Here's why, Casey, for me, and I'm going to try to introduce, as the introduction sort of unfolds, it's like everybody that's been here so far, I feel like there's 1,000 ways to start this. But your process, the thing that stands out to me is every time we have communicated, it's like we sense that something's broken. We sense that something's off, and it's not necessarily that we can point out the solution, but that we see that there is a fertility issue in what is accepted as a church model. I will not go as far as to say the bride of Christ is flawed any more than it's ever been, but we've accepted some things as normal that you see and that I see and that we collectively see as going, wait a minute, this seems like a problem. And I'll try to get through this without just being a ball bag about it, but your story almost happened physically first, and now I'm looking at what you've been through physically and going, that's kind of what's happening at a spiritual level. How long after you left that summer, rodeoing with Trey and you guys being up there, you started having physical symptoms.
Right.
I'm going to scoot that a little closer to you if you don't mind. There you go. You're good.
So, I guess had some things happen. I don't know. Timeline's sketchy. Anyways, December of 2015, I went in. I have a big family history of cancer. And so I went in for a biopsy. It was, I'd had some lumps and different things over the couple of years. And they said, it's fine, you're good. Come back every 6 months and have everything tested. Well, so this was for 2 years I had to do that. Well, this was the last one that I was going to come in for before I just did some annual things. So I went in, they found something new that hadn't been there before, did a biopsy, and that was pretty much it. I was like, okay, we'll do this. I've done that before in my life. It's a thing that you do, and that's a possibility. Got the results on New Year's Eve, and it was, not funny, but funny, that I remember I got the phone call. We live out in the middle of nowhere. I'm by the window so I can have service. Justin was out in the arena roping. They were getting ready to go to the circuit finals, I believe, in Waco. And the guy calls me and he says, well, I'm sorry to tell you the biopsy came back. It is cancer. And I was like, oh, okay. So is there anything I need to know? And he's like, well, just talk to your surgeon and y'all will move on from there. I was like, okay. I was like, that's fine. Just thanks for calling. Have a good New Year's Eve. Don't let this ruin your I feel bad for him. I was like, that's the worst thing to have to call somebody and tell them. So in that moment, I'm not really a freaker outer anyways. That's not how I operate. And I was really peaceful about it. I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm not going to deal with this today. And Justin roped and they went and did their stuff. And he came home that night and I was sitting in bed and he was like, oh, you waited up for me. It's New Year's. Thanks for waiting up for me till midnight or something. And I was like, yeah. And he gets in bed and I was like, well, we got the call today. And they said it is cancer. And I don't really remember a whole lot about the conversation. It was just kind of like, so
yeah. What does that even mean?
We'll just see what happens.
If you could go back today to Casey that day as a preparation for what the following time has looked like, what would Casey today say to Casey that day?
I don't know. I feel like that God is faithful. But I knew that at the time. I think that we had gone through a lot in the year, 2 years leading up to that moment. And God was present right there. He did stuff that just blew me away. Right. I feel like I spent a year just like getting off the phone with Justin going like, God did it again. Yeah. And just the tears and just like, wow. Just one thing after another. So really, for me, it was about, that was the preparation leading up to that moment. So when I got that phone call, I was like, oh, okay. So how are we going to do this, God? Because that's what he had been so faithful through all these really hard things that we dealt with. So I just didn't, that's that peace that only comes from God, that comes from Christ. And that it's not, nothing else can give you that. I felt completely calm from that moment.
Right. So one of the things that and I feel like I'm almost at a little bit of an unfair advantage because Justin and I have talked to some degree. You know, it's like Justin is one of my typical friends where you don't talk for 6 months and then you pick up the phone and usually he's actually better about it than I am. I'm sorry. But when he calls, there's the guilt of like, I should have been the one to call. But instantly you pick right back up. And the depth that I've seen, he has reported, is like, it's amazing to see spiritually the process that God has brought my wife through. He goes, it's like, I see it from one perspective, and we're going to hear from him, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But the symbolism, and I think this leads us to where we're going to go. In the Bible, every time you see something being broken from a physical perspective, every time something is broken, is to bring about new life. You know that when Jesus said, this is my body that was broken, what he's saying is there's life that comes as a result. Death that ends one thing to cause resurrection in another. And we always think of the cross when we think of that. But in my life, it's been like the death of this identity allows freedom for this identity to really emerge, or death of this occupation. When I finally admit that I'm at the end of this road, God is then, not sickness, not dragging it out, when something officially dies. And I think one of the things that the church has maybe not really painted the picture very accurately is the death of comfort. That it's like we think that when we say yes to Jesus, that we're saying yes to comfort and a lack of bad circumstances and a lack of sickness. And so then, you know, you get the call that somebody's going through something and it feels like you've been robbed, or this wasn't what we signed up for. This doesn't seem fair. What would you say to somebody who is experiencing like almost the death of their comfort, the death of their circumstances as they perceived them to be?
Well, I think that sometimes I say and do things that I shouldn't, and people are like, I can't believe you said that, or however. That's
probably why we're friends.
Yeah, that's me a lot. And I remember there's been a couple of situations where my best friend or some really close friends have had situations where would seem like a hardship, and I was like, my friend, he said, well, I guess I'm officially homeless. I have nowhere this, I have nowhere this, and I was like, oh, that seems so exciting. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I am married, have a house, have all these responsibility, like all this stuff. Like, just to think that I had everything in my car, I'd be like, yeah, let's just take off. So I was like, that's so sorry that's hard for you, but there's
freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine's husband lost his job, and I know that God brought them every step of the way, and they do as well. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of excited.
Right.
Because I just, like, there's no telling what God's fixing to do right here. Because I know y'all are supposed to go there. And so for this to happen, even though it doesn't look right, like, I'm really excited to see what happens. And they were like, that's okay.
And I know it sounds like I'm interrupting, but here's why it's important to add right there is what you have seen is like the death of comfort or certainty. That's already dead. Certainty isn't something we actually have. It's something sometimes we think we have. We never do. You've said, I accept, I get it. There is no such thing as certainty. Dead. Instantly, the new life is everything is a possibility. Everything now is new life and optimism and excitement. And there's a richness to a life lived in freedom, because if people that have good jobs are sometimes slaves to those good jobs. They're not fertile soil that's bringing life into the world because they're so afraid it might come at an expense.
Right.
I can't give up enough of me to produce for someone else. And what you're saying, I love that so much, because I think there are times where people go, how could you be happy? And you're the exact same circumstances. You are now saying, how could you not be? It's never about the circumstances. It is always about the freedom that you have in those circumstances.
Right.
And I think when people hear that, even if it's a kind of a smelling salt moment that's like, how could you say that? Something inside of us is drawn to that. How did you get there? How could you say that? How could you feel that way? Because that's really what I want. I want to feel Jesus in this moment, but I don't know how, because my focus has been comfort or certainty or my plans or whatever the case may be. That to me is what death and resurrection means. And that we talked about a minute ago before you guys walked in. My grandpa, when he got sick, suffered for so long, but there was no freedom until he experienced a physical death. And the physical death is what opened the door into freedom. Now, if you take that concept and you dial it and you put it into every element of life, the acceptance that I've already died. That when Paul says, what could you threaten me with? What could you threaten me with when you look at the face of circumstances and instead of resisting or managing, you go, I guess.
Right, because your perspective is your reality. So if that's the way that you see something, then you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's bad, or I guess that's good. But when you see it not like that, and when Steve said earlier that he was like, okay, God, what now? What are we going to do? I remember having this moment where I remember standing in my room. Everything was good, house, kids, everything was great. And I was just standing there, and I had my hands out, and I was like, there's got to be more. And then all these things happened. I was like, I think I may have prayed for that. Because, like the comfort, like you're saying, like I didn't realize that's what I was asking, but I just knew that it felt like not that much.
This can't be it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also know that I don't have control. That's ultimately.
Yeah.
I want to go back though from when I was younger. I was raised in a family who loves Jesus and church, lots of scripture. So that is my foundation, and that's important. So it's not just, like I just was like this. I come from a long line of strong-willed, hard-headed people who are like, I want to do it this way. So that with...
My wife is deeply sympathizing with Justin right now.
with the scripture that was a part of my life, always.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, talking about the church and all of these things, that aside, I took the scripture and what I knew to be true about Jesus and the way that he loves us. And so I always had that moving forward in everything in my life. And I remember just growing up in the church world when you would, you have these things happen. Everybody's like, oh, they have cancer. Or, oh, this is like these things. And I heard someone say that you have just a few of them in your life that you say it was either before this moment or after this moment.
Right. Pivotal points of life, yeah.
And I feel like that's what, like, I felt like the entirety of all of that when they said you have cancer. I was like, oh, this is huge. Like, this is, there's so much that could happen right now. And then I felt really nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I screw something up? Because I knew what God was capable of doing.
In those moments.
In all of
pivot.
that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh. So I remember when sitting in bed that night talking to Justin, I was like, I don't want to miss out on what God does. Like that was my biggest concern throughout the whole thing. Cause I had peace. Like I really did feel, oh, well, he's going to take care of that. Right. But like, as I go through this process,
don't miss the magnitude.
I don't want to miss out. I don't want to be like so focused on this that I don't even realize this lady next to me like needs something or whatever it is. Yeah. I was like, I just want to really, like, I mean, almost selfishly, I was like, I want to make sure I get every bit that's happening. Like, I don't want to miss any of it. And so, I don't know, that just kind of took off from there. I won't say anything about Justin. He can say stuff. But there was so much support, so much love. God's timing is always, I just want to be right where he wants us to be. because I know I'm always late and I'm not good at timing. But if I can be right where we're supposed to be, I know that's where it's supposed to happen.
I want to pivot because one of the things that when we've talked, our method that we're working towards, and I will readily admit, I'm not saying that we have found it at Shiloh. I will say that we're looking for it. We're looking for what does it mean to do what God's got for us to do, the way, just the timing. Are we where we're supposed to be? And one of the things that I love is that your willingness to go, the video thing, I just can't, there's some questions and things like that. But one of the things that you and I have always, in the conversations like with Justin, when you're present in the room, there is a challenging element to your personality in a good way, in the best possible way.
There's a lot of people who would agree with that.
The almost best possible way. But something I feel like that we all sense, everybody in the room was talking about a second ago. It's like there's a diagnosis that we're missing. It's like the church is having that moment where it's happy. You know, the church is kind of comfortable and it's good. The church is good. But we're seeing what it's producing in the lives of so many people. And it's like, isn't it maybe time to consider going in? I don't know a better way to say this, but it's almost like, should we go in for a biopsy? Because it seems like something's wrong. Even if we don't know what the solution is, we can't start moving towards a solution until we understand that, like, our statistics should look different. People's spiritual walk and their lives should be more fertile. It's like we are experiencing a fertility issue, but nobody's talking about it.
Well, so they said, okay, this looks like a different lump. And I go, okay, are you sure it's not the other one? And I'm questioning. And then you say, well, if you think I should go in for a biopsy, I will. So I call a guy and ask him, a family friend, yeah, I do think that's a good thing to do. Then we have to go through all the family, tell her, right, well, we're going to go to the biopsy, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, like you're saying, for the church to go in for a biopsy, it's not comfortable.
It's never convenient.
And there's going to be all these things that will come up so that maybe you don't want to. Like, well, it's probably going to be painful. How much is it going to cost? All of these things. I mean, of course, I'm like, oh, I just did it by myself. Nobody came with me. I don't like to make things a big deal. Yeah. But that's usually the process. Like, there's all the steps and the things and the getting anxious and how's this going to go, and I mean all of the things. And so to say you need to do a biopsy, it triggers a lot of fear and a lot of things that people don't want to like they don't.
Yeah.
It makes it real, and then that's not okay for a lot of people.
And so again, and I have to be so careful because I don't want to pigeonhole myself as a complainer, because I don't want to be a complainer. I don't want to be jaded. I don't want to be a critic, but I also don't want to be the person who, because like I said, we're kind of reconsidering I feel like we almost went in for a biopsy and said, are we loving people outside of our circles like we should? And that's what, like the Firewood Project and the 1017 with the cattle and the hamburger, it was when we gave ourselves an evaluation, what we found is we were good at doing church, but it didn't feel like a Jesus culture. So when we've talked, you've said your heart, because we've said homes and hometowns. We want to see churches returning to homes and hometowns. The process, as painful as it's been, started with a decision to go in and go, is there something that needs addressed? Turns out, yes. And the suffering that comes on the backside of that. If a church, and I say specifically like Powell, Butte, and Wickenburg right now, if the church goes in and they go, wait a minute, there is some suffering, the suffering was the life-saving part. It was the suffering that is saving the life, not the ignoring it. So like early detection, I know early detection is a big deal. What do you, because like you guys live there in Normandy, what is hometown? I would describe Normandy as like the universal hometown. When we talk about hometowns, it's Normandy.
Small town America.
Yep. What does the symptoms look like? And I'm not saying in the specific churches in Normandy, just to be clear. I'm saying in a general sense, what do you see as needing to return? What are the symptoms that you point to and go, this doesn't seem right?
Well, when I was diagnosed with cancer, we were at a church in College Station that God had literally taken us to. And it was beautiful to see how people just showed up and almost like, just like, I'm just going to be here. I'm sorry, but I need to be here. Like, this is what God wants me to do. And you're like, okay, here you are. That's good. And it was amazing. And they were in it for their...
People in Oregon will battle with that one because one of the things I've noticed about Texas is they're willing to sort of ignore a boundary if they know that you need it. And one of the things that we've noticed in Oregon is people really respect personal space and boundaries, and like it would be just a bizarre thing for somebody to knock on your door and be like, I know, but I don't care. You need, and my wife is a private person. And so to hear you say that there were times led by God, that's an important distinction, to be led by God, to just almost push through that and go, I just have to love on you right now.
So when I was going to the oncologist for the first time, I was like, I'm just going to go by myself. And so a friend of mine from the church, she texted and was like, hey, who's going with you? I was like, oh, nobody. And she was like, okay, when are you leaving? I was like, she said, I'm definitely going to go. And I was like, then if it's okay with you. I'm like, oh, yeah,
you
that's
kind of
good.
already said you're going, so I guess.
Right. And she was God sent.
Yeah.
I mean, at that moment is when they said, oh, it's not just, do the surgery, you'll be fine. It was like, this is the road ahead of you. You're going to have a year-long this. You're going to have 6 horrible treatments of chemo. You're going to have radiation. You're going to do the whole bit. And she had experienced it with someone in her family. And so she was like, there's no way I'd let you set foot in there. But we already had a relationship, and she knew how I was. So she was like, it was a godsend, because when I went, I don't remember what she said after that.
Yeah.
She was like there asking questions and reporting, and not just for me, but for my family.
Yeah.
Because they had a million questions afterwards.
Right.
So
thank God she had been sensitive to that.
So I feel like it is okay to be pushy, but at the same time, she cared, and that's why, like, she was really concerned, knowing me, that I would probably go by myself.
Okay.
So there's a connection. I mean, it's really through being kind and caring and being worried about me.
Right.
And selfless that she
what you just said.
Not because she wanted to pray for me.
No. That is the part that I struggle with, because we do so much digitally. Is everybody's knee jerk is like, well, you got to have a community. And I agree. A community that is genuinely Jesus shaped is so important. Not a group of people that you sit in the same room with. Because I think we've got again, like a fertility issue in the accepted model that says I can be in a room with you, but there's nothing there. And so the challenge is not how do we distribute digital material to people who need it. It's when they hear it, how do they take that moment that says, I'm going to love you in a way that I understand how to love you, because I've been through suffering in my own life, and I'm going to push through, and I'm going to be there. And there is a going back to the death and resurrection thing, there is a breaking and there is a death to what we know to be standard that has to take place. And I'm going to tell you, anybody that's been a part of the Shiloh thing knows how painful that is. That what you're saying, how painful that is, because you have to give up some of the comfort of we liked it that way. This is going to hurt. This is going to be our church chemo treatments of what does it mean for Jordan to be gone in person? What does that mean? What does that look like for us? We like it better this way, or what about that? But what we are inevitably creating or finding is it is bringing life out of the ashes of our old expectations. These kind of conversations that never happened before. The depth, I mean, there are people that I know in our church that have gone through cancer treatments that are going, why, how, what does it look like to somehow improve? And I love the beauty of what you said, which was, God, don't let me miss anything. If I'm going to go through this anyway, don't let me miss what you've got. Don't let me waste, the magnitude of this moment. That is maybe what I'm saying when I say that, like, we agree something's wrong. We agree that something's off that has to return. Steve said something a minute ago that when you sit in a room with 5 or 6 or 10 people and you're watching a church service on a TV screen, the people in that house are going to be the people that go to the appointments. It's going to be those people that show up to your house with food. It's not going to be the masses of people sitting in a room. It's going to be the nucleus of people that God has put you in contact with, and that is a church.
You know, when we were talking before about having a church like where we are or something like that, and I started thinking about who would be a part and who already is in our community of people that we do life with. And it was funny that I thought, oh, those people already go to church. Like, do you know, so it's like, I think that like-minded, same type of thing, but that's just the religion that's the culture.
Right.
That's what they've always done. So that's what they always do.
Right.
So it was kind of strange to think, and that's the culture that I'm used to. Like, I don't want to take somebody from their church, right? Like, I don't want to disrupt that. But to me, it's a natural gravitation of the people that do life together. Why would we not, if we do stuff with our kids, if we enjoy each other's company, if we eat and like want to be together, why wouldn't we worship together? Why wouldn't we learn about Christ together? Like,
isn't it weird that's not the norm?
So disconnected, but that's the way it, I guess, used to be. The church was like this place to connect everyone.
Right.
But now things are so different, and with all the different opinions and religions, and however, you just do what your family always did a lot of times.
Right.
So then now it feels like it's almost separating everyone rather than bringing us together. Who knows?
Would you say it this way? For decades, we have been corralled in the same 4 walls, but we're not together. We're not. And this is, you just said it, the tradition, the challenging of there is a diagnosis that's missing. There is something going on. Our charts don't look right. We're not seeing lives radically brought into this Jesus culture. And yet it's like we would almost rather ignore that than go in and go, what's it going to take to see that come back again? And the hardest part for me is that we have something that we call church to fill that place. We don't even consider that might be the gap because we've got a placeholder there that goes, no, we have church. It can't be that. Well, we have church, but we have church. We don't have.
It needs to be redefined.
Yeah. And I think what this is like, I'm sitting here in a room full of people that I so deeply respect and value and love. And I'm so challenged that this to me is going to bring that breaking, as hard as that is, that breaking to the surface where if I'm struggling with something, there's not one person in this room right now that I don't feel like I could go to and go, I have to open up about something. Like there's something going on in my life, and I would have killed for this environment right here. Even as times as a pastor of going, I don't know why I don't feel like a pastor. I don't know why this is such a struggle. I feel like I would have saved years on my life because there was a diagnosis. And even though it's suffering and struggling, at least I know that the suffering and the breaking is leading to that new life. And so I think that's, to me, that's why it felt so necessary. And Justin said, I think I can get Casey. I'm like, yeah, you're lying. She's not going to come up right now. Was you go through it physically. You go through it physically. You see the process displayed physically. And you go, wait a minute. It feels like that. As hard as it is to watch, and as hard as it is to have those conversations where Justin's like, hey, in case you got diagnosed with cancer. Well, same thing. We're like, what does that mean? Because it can mean like a lot, or it can mean almost nothing. And like, what does that even mean? And as hard as it is to watch somebody that you care about go through the struggle, it's a life-saving effort. And I feel like that is what we're approaching at a spiritual level, as saying like, something's got to change. We've got to at least put our finger on the.
It's your mindset, because when you know that there's a battle ahead, you have to say, okay, and that's what they told me. Okay, here's the plan. You have a year and you have to do this. And at the end of that year, then you'll be good. You'll be all of this stuff, which was not true either, but still, like there was a plan, right? Like you had, like, you're like, okay, I can do that. And I feel like that's the way we are a lot of times is like, okay, let me just have that to focus on. And if I know that I can handle that, then I won't worry about everything else.
Yeah.
So, but you have to decide that you're ready for it. And I think that's the thing is that a lot of people really aren't ready for the traditional church should not be there, and that comfort of this is, I like that stays the same. And again, with the broken, right? Like, if this past year hasn't showed that things are broken, I mean, the church needs to be ready to be broken and get right, because that's, I mean, start looking for healing, because everything that what we
that's
thought
the word.
isn't.
Yeah. It's healing. And going back to even what Jody said, is the healing that's available changes the countenance. The church's countenance has gotten kind of hard, and it's gotten kind of, again, I'm so careful because I don't want to sound like I'm anti-church. I'm really not. I'm just anti-traditions that are restricting.
There's a routine, and just kind of you get stuck in it.
Could you all? I'm hesitant to say this, but could you almost say that it's like we've entered into a trafficking relationship with the rules, where the rules restrict us and just take the life out of us, and we're not living in spiritual freedom anymore, and we're not maybe loving people the way that we could, but we're so restricted that we don't have the freedom to even consider breaking outside of our bubble and the healing. I mean, that's kind of the, like, I don't want to overtalk it, but I'll say this. I know I'm hesitant to never say, oh, that's terrible. Do you want to tell the people? Like, that is at my gut.
Mm-hmm.
At my gut, I'm so anti that. But at the same time, I appreciate your willingness to take a minute here and make it available, because I know there are going to be people going through exactly what you said, which is I was sitting in my house is good, kids are good, and just going, there's got to be more than this. I feel like that's a good spot. I feel like that's a good place to wrap up.
Better, or we'll keep going. There's a lot more.
Casey, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing. You're worthy of all the praise. His pride and adoration, treasures woven by His love. In His careful hands they hold us, safe within His promise of calling and of destiny. We're heaven's flood creations, His pride and adoration, treasures woven by His love. His careful hands they hold us, safe within His promise of calling and of destiny. I'll sing of all You've done, and I'll remember how far You carried me from beginning until the end. Well, You are faithful, faithful to the end. The Father's heart is for me, a never-ending story of love that's always chasing me. His kindness overwhelming and hope for me unending. He's never given up on me. Oh, I will say, and I will sing of all You've done, and I'll remember how far You carried me from beginning till the end. You are faithful, faithful to the end. Until the end. Oh, You are faithful. Oh, You are faithful. There wasn't a day that You weren't by my side. There wasn't a day that You let me fall. In all of my life, Your love has been true. So in all of my life, I will worship You. I will worship You. I'll sing of all You've done. I'll remember how far You carried me from beginning until the end. You're faithful, faithful to me.
Yeah, Jesus, we just thank You for this time together. God, we thank You for how faithful You are every single day. God, You carry us from the beginning of our lives to the end of our lives. God, from the beginning of our day to the end of our day. So, Father, I just ask that You would help us to build our lives on what You say. Father, we wouldn't look for things in this world to help build our career on, our reputation on. But Father, we would just learn more about You and seek out Your word. Because we know You are faithful, we know Your word is true, and Your love is the most beautiful love that no one person could give us. So God, we love You, we worship You. In In your precious name we pray. Amen. All right, there we go. We are back to close out another wonderful, amazing service. I just wanted to say a quick note. That last song we just listened to, I feel like just wrapped up the sermon really beautifully. Just God being faithful to the end.
Yeah.
And there's never a day that he's not by our side.
Yeah.
I love that.
That Levi, man, what an angelic voice. What
yeah.
a character.
What a character.
That lady's
what a guy.
good too, I guess, but I've heard better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, okay. So we talked a little bit earlier about the online community. So first we want to give a special shout out to the online campus, everyone that tunes in on Facebook every Sunday. Thank you, of course, for being here. Jacob, talk about how that's going to be expanded or developed in the coming future.
Well, we're constantly researching and learning new stuff every day.
Yeah.
But right now we're looking into a platform that could expand the online community in general.
Yeah.
Provide us with more connection with people.
Yeah.
I mean, the comment section is great, but if we had the ability to put people in groups and connect them that way and have the Powell Butte campus be talking with Wickenburg and everybody in one spot, that would just be awesome. So that's the goal, and we're researching it.
Basically just creating our own social media site. No, but we recognize the fact that not everyone has a Facebook account, especially nowadays. I feel like that's dwindling a little bit. So please know if you or someone you know doesn't have a Facebook account or doesn't prefer to use it, we are working on different platforms to be able to watch online. So that is coming, and I think a big thing that's going to help with that is having the media center finished. So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, a couple updates. Powell Butte campus, if you need prayer, head into the mother's room right after we're done here. That transitions into our prayer room. Of course, anyone can ask for prayer in the comment section on the live stream. Send us a message on any of our social media platforms or send an email to srccpray@gmail.com. Powell Butte, if you would like to give a physical donation, we've got offering boxes as you're leaving the sanctuary or one as you're leaving the building as well. Wickenburg, stick around for some words from Jerry and Mark. One last reminder to press the share button and share the stream. This is something you guys can come back to and watch again later, or something your friends and your family can see later this week and tune into as well. It's always available on our Facebook page and will be available on our YouTube page. If you know someone that doesn't have a Facebook, send it to them later. So I think that's all. I hope everyone has a wonderful, amazing week. I can't wait for next week already. You guys, be kind to people, love people, forgive people, and run from bad guys.
Away
No,
from bad
not
guys.
towards bad guys. Run from bad guys. We'll see you next week.